It's the weekend, and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome to Jill on Money. Thanks so much for sharing the first December weekend 2017 with us. What a delight. You survived Thanksgiving? Huh? Did you do Black Friday? Did you buy anything on Cyber Monday? Mark, did you buy anything on Cyber Monday? $6.6 billion of commerce transacted on Cyber Monday. You bought slippers? That's what you bought? What kind of slippers? Uggs? Little fuzzy Uggs? Bunny slippers? Did you buy it for yourself or for your girlfriend? If you bought it for yourself, he's laughing at himself because this is like the silliest thing ever. Really? Slippers. You know what? I'm not a slipper person. I didn't know that about you. Had I known that, I know what to get you just as a goof gift. I wear socks in the apartment. I wear like heavy, like just a pair of heavier socks. Anyway, my apartment's always boiling hot because I'm high up, you know. All right. I bought something that is very funny. Apropos of this gift I got from my friends upstairs. I bought a pair of these myself, of the wireless headphones, and then someone actually gave me a gift of them. But you know what? They always break anyway, so. And these are nice. They have like little CBS on them, which is kind of cute. A little CBS eye. Anyway, it's cool. All right. Now, of course, now we are in this crazy holiday season. And, of course, this means that you are going to be solicited in a humongous way. And in order for you to really understand what you should be doing around charitable giving, we've got a beautiful post up on the website at jillonmoney.com to make sure that you're maximizing your gifting. So we've got the 4 steps that you need to know about giving before the end of the year. So don't write the check. Don't click on reply. Just go to the website. We've got lots of fun links. We've got a great link to the irs.gov tool that makes sure that you're donating to a qualified charity. And also a plug for my new best friend, the CEO of Charity Navigator, came into the studio to talk to me a little bit, and I was really intrigued by it. Charity Navigator's got a rating system of charities. It includes a review of their fiscal performance, as well as the efficiency, ethics, effectiveness of it. Charity Navigator helps you understand what portion of the donation goes to support overhead versus going to the cause itself. So all of these really important factors in your giving. Please be sure to give carefully. Charitable fraud on the rise, Mark. That's about the worst, right? I mean, it's just awful. Anyway, Mark says he's not surprised. He's not surprised by a lot. That's what happens when you're a cynic. You're never surprised. All right, let's get a caller on the air. Jeff is on the line. Where's Jeff from? You didn't tell me. Jeff from Georgia is on the line. Hi, Jeff. Welcome to Jill on Money. How are you?
Good, Jill. How are you?
Fantastic. Tell me what's going on. How can I help you?
Okay. Well, would like your insights into this particular question.
Okay.
So, I'll try to paint, somewhat of a picture to help with your thoughts here.
Okay, great.
So I'm 52 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a net worth of about $1.7 million.
Ding, ding, ding. Great job.
Bing, bing, bing. Yep. Zero debt.
Mm-hmm.
Within retirement accounts, between my wife and I, we probably have about $750,000 in IRAs, 401ks, that type of thing.
Okay.
And so, seeing where the markets are going right now, they've been up. I believe there's probably a correction at some point in time, but who knows when and how big.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I was thinking about, and this would be maybe a little bit of a speculative play, not something I usually would do, but say out of the $750,000, take some of that, say about $100,000, put it in cash, and park it and keep it in one of the 401ks or whatever it may be until this, correction that may be on the horizon happens, and then throw it back in the market then.
Okay. Little market timing for you. Okay.
Right, which is not anything I have done in the past.
Yep.
Definitely goes against how I got to the $750 million, but I'm sitting there thinking, well, now I'm in a position where maybe I could do something like that.
Yeah, you can make a dumb mistake, but I'm with you. Let me ask you a couple questions. 1.7 million. How much is in stock versus bond versus any other asset class right now?
So, out of that $750 million, I would say $350 million is in.
You keep saying million, and I'm loving you so much because I'm like, yeah, baby, I got my first 100 millionaire question. No, I'm totally teasing you.
Yeah. I'm just as nerves. Out of the 1.7 million,
yeah,
I get about 350,000 and maybe 400,000 in real estate.
Okay,
so that's my personal home and some rental properties.
Okay,
the rest of it is. Then I got about another $60,000 just in pure cash.
Yep.
And then the rest of it is in just mostly probably equities.
Yep.
But in a number of my IRA accounts and 401ks, I've got those. I forgot what you actually call them, but they're the target.
Target date funds. Sure. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So most of the retirement accounts are in those types of investments.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not, then they're in an index fund.
Okay. So in the target date funds, do you have them in the target date of your real retirement, or do you have something earlier? In other words, would the target date fund be, say, I don't know, I'm going to make this up, 2030 for someone like you?
I think they're mostly 2035.
Okay. Gotcha.
Some of them 2030s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And no bond positions outside of what's within the target date funds, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. This actually makes this much easier. So let me just roll back one more layer of questions. Right now, you're 52. When do you think you'd like to retire?
Yesterday.
No, really. Give me the real deal.
I really don't know. I had visions earlier in my career to retire in the mid-50s. Mm-hmm. And that is still the same. Still along those lines, but I don't think I'd ever stop working. I'd have to do something just to stay sane.
Okay.
But to back out of the professional world, let's say around 60.
Okay. All right, so 60. Let's just say 60 for the heck of it. And we're going to come up against a commercial break, so I'm going to just ask you one more quick question before we go to the break and then come back to you, and that is, how much money do you need to live on? What's your actual need in terms of your expenses and what you would expect during retirement? How much money each month or each year? What would you guess?
Yeah, I'm thinking honestly, my wife and I, we could probably get by around $75,000.
Great.
A year.
All right, so hang on. We're going to do a little math during the break and come right back to you. We've got Jeff on the line here, and when we come back, we're going to do some retirement planning and discuss whether we should do some market timing. I'm not going to call it market timing. You'll hear. It's Jill on Money, 855-411-JILL. Send an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger. Have a question? Call anytime, day or night. 855-411-JILL.
You're back with Jill on Money. Happy December, everyone. This cannot possibly air before December 1st, so we know. We know. You stations, if you hold it over to Sunday, it's still December. Ha! Gotcha. It's my birthday month, so feel free to send your warm wishes throughout the month because it is a month-long celebration for me. And I'm delighted about that. You got plenty of time, don't worry. Whole month, we're opening it up. Right now, let's go back to our caller, Jeff from Georgia, who's worth about $1.7 million. And he's got, let's say, 750 of that 1.7 is in retirement accounts, some target date funds, some index funds. Jeff, you also included in that number, you said you've got 350 or 400 grand in real estate. What part of that is your personal residence? What's your personal residence worth?
About 250,000.
Okay. I am going to pull that out of your net worth because that's not something that I consider to be working for you for retirement. I just presume you're going to stay there. Okay, and before we went to the break, you said you need about $75,000 a year to live on. How much does the rental property, that $150,000 worth of rental property, how much does that spin off in income for you guys?
Right now about $1,500 a month.
Okay, great. That's fantastic. You're working currently. Are you still maxing out your retirement account?
I am.
Okay, great. And is your wife working?
No.
And you got kids?
I do.
How old?
What have I got? 24, 22, 20, and 16.
My God, you were busy. But so 24 on, I presume 24, 22 on their own?
24 is, 22's wrapping up his last few months in college.
Okay. So the obligations you have for the kids, have you set aside money for college for them, or is part of the money of the 1 point, let's call it, 1.5-ish, 1.5?
None of that is for college education.
Oh, great. Fantastic.
Got all that covered and other things, 529s.
Oh, you're
education statement.
Brilliant. Brilliant. When you look at the Social Security estimate, what does your estimate look like if it, give me 65, 66, 67, whatever your full retirement age is?
Gosh, those things come in the mail. And
I know you throw them out, right? Probably.
Yeah.
How much do you earn approximately?
So this year, my base salary is $160,000.
All right. So the chances are it's going to be somewhere around 20 grand. So of the need of 75 grand a year, the good news is you got your rental income, 18 grand, might go up, might go down, but we'll call it 18. You got 20 grand will be Social Security. Some portion of that maybe also from your wife will get half of yours. So let's call it 30 grand. So you're going to have a good chunk of your need taken care of. Your portfolio will be able to fill in the gap. You're going to have no problem. There's going to be one little problem, and that is that if you really do retire at 60, then you can't tap Social Security until 62. And ideally, I wouldn't even have you do that. I would have you wait till your full retirement age, and you would just fill in the gap with something, like you said, a less corporate job, a little extra cash on the side doing something. So now we're getting back to your original question, which is, hey, how do I allocate my portfolio given that I'm nervous that the market is up dramatically and we're in the second longest bull market in history? And I want to put a possibility out there for you that is less predicated on timing the market correctly, but more on let's have a more realistic asset allocation, given that you don't necessarily want to blow your huge gains that you've accumulated here at age 52. So what I would say is this. You got a ton of money. You got a bunch of it in some target date funds. You've got some in index funds. I would look at having the allocation look a little bit more balanced. And I'm not sure you even need a target date fund. Where are you investing? Through which company?
You know what? I'm at Principal. I got Merrill Lynch. I've got Fidelity. Maybe another one. Dreyfus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you managing your own money, or are you working with a broker?
I'm doing my own.
So those are through the companies, huh? Merrill Lynch and Principal.
Where the accounts are, right?
Yeah. Okay. So what I would say is this. In the accounts, I would want an allocation for someone in your situation that looked about 60% stocks, 40% safer stuff. That could be bonds. That could be cash. Okay?
Right.
And so when you look at the target date funds, you have to actually poke into that allocation and look every single company has a different allocation for its target date fund. So, for example, you might look at the Fidelity target date fund and it looks like you're 80-20, 80% stocks, 20% bonds. But you might look at a Merrill Lynch one and it's 60-40. So I know it's a pain in the neck, but you really should look at it. And what I would suggest is that you should be in these funds that are more 60-40. Alternatively, you can get rid of all of these target date funds and just say, I'm going to take a stock index fund and a bond index fund and call it a day and use that and have 60% stock and 40% bond or cash. And if you had that kind of allocation, or even if you like a little more risk, 65-35, and you did that right now, you would basically say, I am trying to defend against something really bad happening. Here's the asterisk. I don't think you have to change that allocation even if the market were to crash. I think that could be an allocation that would take you through markets going higher, but also going lower. And I wouldn't necessarily feel like you have to time to get back in, because in essence, what I am seeing here, Jeff, is that you and your wife have done an amazing job of accumulating assets. You've, in fact, accumulated the assets you need. You don't even need to do any more. What you need to do is to actually protect those assets on the downside. You want to protect what you've worked so hard to accumulate and to save. And if you pull your allocation back in terms of making it a more balanced portfolio, you don't have to worry about putting that $100,000 back to work. And I think that's a more realistic way to approach where we are right now in the marketplace. How does that sound to you?
No, that makes sense. I definitely got some homework I need to do.
Yeah,
to understand, where I am on some of these target date funds and go from there.
Yeah. And then if you really are nervous and you really do want to just say, okay, before I do that homework, I want to put like $100,000 in cash, I'm cool with that. But then put the money back to work. The good news is if you're doing this inside of a retirement account, there's no tax liability. So that's so that's why I think it's fine to do it, at least even in the interim. Okay. So let's just let's kind of like get things buttoned down a little bit and protect yourself. And you just keep saving, and life will be very good for you, Jeff. I feel like you're great savers. Our job is to make sure you don't lose it and essentially just get caught up in a euphoria on the upside or get swept in a downdraft. So let's secure this and get a portfolio you can live with in both scenarios.
All right.
All right. Good luck, man. Thanks for calling.
Appreciate it.
Take care.
Bye.
Good call, Mark. Mark was the first one who said, I don't like that idea of considering his personal residence as part of his assets. And it's a good point. Boy, that CFP classes, that whole thing is working for me. The reason is that any asset that you would be unwilling to sell or liquidate to create income in the future is not an asset. I mean, it's on your balance sheet, but it's not a retirement asset. So unless you had a house that you said, oh, I live in a $500,000 house and I'm going to downsize to a $250,000 house. And even that's dangerous because I never think people actually downsize for the amount they think they're going to. We don't really want you to include your personal residence as part of a retirement asset base. All right, you are listening to Jill on Money, 855-411-JILL. Email us, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger. Want to get in touch? Call or email any day, anytime. 855-411-JILL or askjill@jillonmoney.com.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email. askjill@jillonmoney.com. That was a really good call. I like that. Jeff from Georgia. This just, again, supports my thesis, which is the stock market probably has more room on the upside because we keep getting people calling and asking about the downside, which is not what you usually find in a euphoria. For example, a euphoria, let's look no further than, let's say, Bitcoin. I'm getting into this. I think I'm going to really, maybe we should have a Bitcoin expert on, Mark. What do you think? I don't know. I'm intrigued by the technology behind it. Let's try to get that dude, Nathaniel Popper from the New York Times. He wrote a Bitcoin book. So in honor of Bitcoin and digital currency and all that mania. Let's see if we can get him on. I just heard him interviewed. I think I could do a better job with him. Shh. I won't tell you where. Anyway, if you have a financial question, give us a call, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. Let's go to Neil, who is on the line from Buffalo, listens to us on WBEN, one of our favorite stations. Hi, Neil. Welcome to Jill on Money. What can I do for you?
Hi, good morning. I just had a question. I am 47, married with 2 young children, and we have a significant amount in our 457 plan.
Mm-hmm.
And my concern is that we're putting more in that than possibly in a Roth IRA where we can take these savings at the end without paying taxes. And I just wanted to see what your thoughts were on that.
Very interesting. How old are your kids? You said 2 young kids.
Well, 9 and 10.
Okay, 9 and 10. No break there, huh? Okay, and you're both working, or is one of you staying home? What's happening?
Both working. Will be a dual pension household within 15 years.
Oh, I love that. Okay. How much do you guys earn together?
Joint is approximately $220,000.
Okay. Of course, So, all right, hold on a second. So you're both working for municipalities? Are you teachers or doctors and nurses? What are you guys?
Teachers and work for the state.
Okay. So here's the thing. The Roth has a phase out for contributions. Are you given a Roth possibility through work?
Yes, through our deferred compensation.
Fabulous. Okay, that's great. Okay. So here's a couple of things. Number one, I asked that question because I thought you were first asking me about Roth IRAs, which are subject to phase out limits on contributions. So, for next year, I mean, I don't know if they're going to mess around with this for next year under the tax plan, but for next year, if you make more than $199,000, you can't use a Roth. But you, again, as part of your employer-based plan, can use a Roth, and that's fabulous. So I guess the question is, what we have to figure out is what your tax situation will be next year. And of course, we don't know that yet. I know. Isn't that annoying? So if it were this year and all else being equal, and you said to me, should I start saving some money in the Roth 401k or 403b or 457, then I would say, yes, it's great because it's nice to have different kinds of tax treatment funds available to you in retirement. So right now, how much did you say you have saved in retirement?
In the 457,
Yep.
Approximately $650,000.
Wow, that's awesome. And is that just yours or is that yours together?
That's just mine. My wife has, she's only been contributing for a few years, about 50. So total, conservatively, about 700.
That's great. So here's the thing. Presumably you own a home?
Yes.
You got a mortgage?
Yes, 8 years left on that.
All right. Well, you are a New York State resident, so you may get slammed when we find out details of this tax proposal, right? Because you're not going to be able to deduct you may not be able to deduct your state income tax, and
Correct.
You're in a high tax state. So, what we would have to look at is the comparison of what's more valuable to you. I think that what I would say, at least in the near term, is it certainly would be fine for you to have some money that's already been taxed. But I'm very much interested in what that tax rate will be for you. And so I am hesitant to give you advice until we have the actual Republican deal and whether it passes or not. I know what again, if it were 2017 and we're having no tax reform conversation, I would say absolutely, definitely start this, no doubt. Okay. But if for some reason it looks like your tax bracket is set to rise in the future, which under some of these plans that are being contemplated, someone in your situation may get whacked. And so I am worried that we don't have enough details yet to really figure out what you should do. So can I make a suggestion, which is, can you give us a holler back when we know the details of this plan and I can run the numbers for you and tell you which one is more advantageous?
Sure, that'd be great.
All right. So, I mean, look, it's all going to be good. You're saving a ton of money. It's great. You've got these 2 pensions that will likely come in. You really have done a terrific job. And it sounds like you're very good savers because you said you're going to pay off your mortgage. What I'm very much interested in is seeing, especially because you're a resident of New York, how the potential tax deal might impact you. So we'll know more in the next few weeks. So, Mark, make a note. We got to make sure that we get Neil back on the phone when we have an actual tax deal. All right? Excellent. Thank you so much for calling. A lot of decisions are in flux right now, gang. And until we have those answers, it's really not worth it. It's not worth to mess around and guess. We need more concrete information before you make a choice like this. And I think a lot of the plans details are important here. And I've said this about the Republican plans previously, which is this is not like your old school tax cut. Very specific people are winners and losers. So if you've got a question about that, once we get the plan, give us a holler, 855-411-JILL, or send an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com, and we can hopefully help you decide how to proceed. All right, let's go take a break. When we come back, more of your great questions. We'll be right with you.
Lord, there goes Johnny Appleseed, leaving my past by in the hour of need. There's a lot of
Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger. Have a question? Call anytime, day or night. 855-411-JILL.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. Mark just wanted me to reiterate that for that question we just answered for Neil, part of the equation around a Roth versus not Roth or traditional type of retirement account has to do with what you think your tax rate will be in the future, but part of it has to do with what's going on with your tax situation today. So that's why I want more information about Neil's specific situation. And when we get it, we'll help him out. All right, here's a quick question from Stuart. What are the current capital gains rates? I heard there are 3 of them. Well, interesting you should ask. Current tax law, long-term capital gains. I think that's what you mean, because if it's short-term, it's just your ordinary income tax bracket. There are 3 brackets, 0, 15, and 20%, but put an asterisk on that 0 on the 20%, okay? Right now, capital gains rates, if you are married filing jointly, you pay 0 if it's 0 to $75,900, 15%, $75,900 to $470,000. If you are married filing jointly and you make more than $470,700, you pay a 20% long-term capital gains rate. If you're single, it's over $418,400. However, that top rate is effectively not 20, but 23.8%, because you are likely to be paying a Medicare surtax on your gains. Okay, so it's if your modified adjusted gross income is above essentially $250,000, you pop that on there. Okay. There are some folks in that 15% tax bracket, by the way, who also pay some percentage extra than the 15%, because that's a big category. But Generally speaking, 0, 15, 20.3. That's where we're talking about for capital gains. All right. It's interesting. The proposals, interestingly enough, in terms of the Republican proposals, nothing about capital gains. They're trying to repeal that 3.8% surcharge, but I don't know if they're really going to be able to do that. Here's a note from, how am I supposed to know what this person's name is? I don't know. Let's just say O. That's the name, the letter O. What percentage of my portfolio should be in bonds and treasuries? I'm 61. Oh, brother, come on. I need more info. Yeah, all of that was in the subject line, which I loved. So here's the thing. It depends. I don't know how much money you have. If you have $10 million and you're 61, you might say, well, I don't really need to take a lot of risk. If you're living off of that money and you need it to last, you might need to have some money in stocks and some money in bonds. It's one of those weird questions where you want a simple answer and I refuse to give it to you. It's as if you sent a doctor an email and in the subject line it says, I'm 61 years old. What dose of medicine should I take? I need more information. So please just write me back and follow up. Let me know what that information is. I need to know more about you. I'd love for you to come on the show and tell us about yourself. Okay. Here's someone who wrote in after a column I wrote about homeowners and flood insurance. It says here, you mentioned in your article that homeowners who don't have flood insurance may actually find that the government would step in with a safety net, but you don't mention what that may encompass. Does that mean that the government might cover a homeowner as if they did have flood insurance? No, it does not mean that. It means that the federal government has stepped in after huge events, calamitous events, to provide some loans, some grants, and as a result, I would say, generally speaking, some help, some relief. So no, it's not as good as flood insurance. The exact same questions essentially are really, what is it that somebody needs to kind of stay afloat? I hate to use the afloat when I'm talking about flood. Sorry about that. Okay. Is the federal safety net a grant of money to the homeowner, or is it a loan that has to be repaid? It's usually some portion of each. Herbert has both homeowners and flood insurance. He never filed a claim with the insurance companies. His home has never sustained any damages. How lucky for you. But that is generally the case. The government does usually step in and does something. That's what we do as a civilized society. We help people who suffer. But no, it's not the same as having coverage. So there you have it. Okay. If you have a financial question, we would love to hear from you. Our phone number here is 855-411-JILL. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. And please don't forget, if you'd like, how about you start listening to our podcast? It's called Better Off. You can get it on Apple, Stitcher, Google Play, SoundCloud, anywhere else you find your favorite podcasts. Or just go to jillonmoney.com. And wait, there's going to be very exciting news at the website soon after the beginning of the year. All right, Jill on Money, we'll be right back.
Is what was true now no longer so.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. 855-411-JILL. Send an email. AskJill@jillonmoney.com. Sue in California wants to know, is it better to keep my money inside an IRA or outside of an IRA? Taxes go up every year. I pay more on my same withdrawal every year. I wonder, would I have been better not to have put it all in an IRA? Well, look, it depends on your tax situation. I guess that it depends when you also started putting money away. First of all, for a lot of people, they didn't have a choice. They were putting money away in a traditional IRA or a 401k, there was no Roth. The Roth didn't come along till the 90s. And for many people, they didn't have the ability to put money away into a Roth because they made too much money. So only lately do we really have these choices. So cut yourself some slack, girl. That said, you've got money in your IRA. You've got money outside of your IRA. I don't know how. Did she say how old she is? I don't know if she said that. She said a lot of things, but she didn't say how old she was. So, Sue, I think that if you are trying to decide whether or not to pull your money out of your IRA and pay your taxes right this second versus delaying it, it might make sense to delay it. Although, you might want to see what happens with the tax plans going on, winding their way through Congress. So I think I think you're fine. It's good to save. Don't look back. It's okay. Here's how she ends it. Jill, your program's great, but needs more financial info for me, like specific places to earn 4 or 5%, not risky. Okay, Sue. Next on Fantasyland, we'll answer that question. But for this program, where we're here grounded in the United States of America in a system where we have essentially 10-year treasuries at 2.3%, you ain't going to find 4 to 5% without any risk. But I appreciate you giving me the ribbing. I really do. All right. Stay tuned. We've got a great interview coming up in hour number 2. We're going to talk about how to make your wild ideas mighty. Yeah. 855-411-JILL. That's our phone number. Our email address, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
It's been a long old troublesome road, and I'm looking for somebody come and help me carry this load. I need a dollar, that's what I need. Hey, well I need a dollar, that's what I need.
It's the weekend, which means it's time for Jill on Money, the show that makes money fun and just happens to answer all your financial questions. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome to hour number 2 of the program. We are delighted that you are hanging with us. We've got a very special guest this hour. I met her a few months back. She wrote a book, and it kind of, it jumped out at me and Mark. The name of the book is The Power of Onlyness. And the subtitle is Make Your Wild Ideas Mighty Enough to Dent the World. The author is Nilofer Merchant. She's got quite an interesting background. And she went from a very weird issue in her own family of origin, broke out, went to community college, went from being an administrative assistant to running a major channel program at Apple. So, boy, her journey is amazing. So let's go and talk to Nilofer Merchant. She is our guest here for Jill on Money. It's hour number 2. What is onlyness?
Onlyness is how we all add value to the world, especially in this modern economy. I coined the term back in 2011, 2012, when I was writing something for Harvard Business Review. And I was trying to say innovation was changing from needing capital or from needing to belong to an organization, and that ideas were coming from everywhere, anywhere in the world, and that we could now scale those ideas in ways that were profound. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is the new economy, an ideas economy. But the big shift was it could come from that spot in the world only you stood, a function of your history and experience, visions and hopes. And then the NES part is the connectedness part. So I was just hooking that together as an innovation term to talk about why we were seeing such a tectonic shift.
All right, let's go into your origin story because it's kind of interesting. You grew up in California, in Silicon Valley before, but did your family work in the industry? Are you going to tell me that like your dad was, working at HP a million years ago? Or
no, not at all.
So what's the origin story?
Immigrant story.
Yeah.
Mother and father divorced when I was 2. In India, a woman's ability to sort of care for her own family independently was not available. She got sponsored by my uncle to come study here in the United States, which meant that she left my brother and sister in one place, myself in another place, in fact, in a slum, which was where some of my cousins lived, and came here and studied at a community college for 2.5 years until she could find a way to actually get a job and then bring us to America. And then, I know, right? So a beautiful immigrant story because, of course, today I'm ranked one of the top management thinkers in the world, and yet my origin story is not like most management thinkers.
And so you grow up, and what's your path like? Did you love something that like made you want to go into business? Where were you going? If I talked to you in high school, what would I have found?
Yeah, my destiny was to get an arranged marriage. So,
no, come on.
Arranged marriage, because in financial terms, that was the way in which my mother could then provide for her future, was to have one of her daughters marry well and be able to, sort of retire essentially on that asset. And I had always grown up with that expectation. I didn't necessarily agree with it, but I also didn't disagree with it. It was clearly like the path that was.
Also, I think I've read research that shows that arranged marriage divorce rates are not that different than love relationships. So maybe not a bad shot at it.
Yeah. And so here I am, 17, 18 years old, not going off to college like all my friends because there was this other thing that had to first get settled. And at one point I come home. So I was going to community college sort of biding time because I loved education. I, in fact, had applied secretly to UC Berkeley and gotten in and then deferred, thinking that, okay, I'll do this thing my mother really wants and sort of do the right thing by the family, and then I'll get to pursue what it is I want. And so here I'm going to community college. I come home one day, all the aunties are in the house and cooking away and saying, oh my gosh, your marriage is, arranged, yay. And I said, well, I went to my uncle who was negotiating on our behalf as the male patriarchy of the family, and said, so you did ask the guy, right, if I could go to school? And he goes, no, I'm not allowed to ask that. Your mother
What?
Yeah. My
Wait, not that it's like not the custom, but your mother wouldn't want that.
Well, she wanted to negotiate for the house more than she wanted to negotiate for any of my interests, right? So priorities. And I said, now remember, I've been raised in America since I was 4.5. Actually went to a club called, this is dating myself a little, Future Business Leaders of America.
That's you. You are a future business leader of America here.
But took accounting classes and stuff, right? So I'm truly a product of Western education. And so I said to my mother in total business language, well, I am the product. So if you're going to make this deal, you have to help me do this one thing. And I knew the guy would say yes. Like I was pretty... Just because I knew.
Wait, had you met him yet or not?
Well, in like larger group settings, I had met him, and so I knew that he was wealthy enough. Wasn't sort of marrying me because he wanted someone to take care of his children. He was marrying me because he wanted to marry me, and he had already been married once, and he had a nanny, and blah blah blah. So I knew enough of the story to go, I'm pretty sure this guy is going to be fine if I go get an education. And so I did this theatrical move where I grabbed the closest box, which is like 2-3 feet away. I pull it over. I put 5 books. 1 outfit, no toothbrush, make the proclamation I'm the product, walk out the door. And and I'm thinking 5 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, right? Because I mean, like, really, I am the product. They can't make the deal. Like, this is self-evident. My mother didn't talk to me for years and years.
Whoa. Hold on. Because I knew the first part of that story, but I didn't know the mother. I don't think you wrote about that part, that she didn't talk to you for years and years.
Yeah, we had a dialogue of the deaf conversation shortly thereafter where I called home and she was just,
Where'd you go? To your uncle's?
I went to a donut shop, as one does in comfort moments.
Okay. Hold on a second. So you go to the donut shop, and then what happens?
Yeah, so I go to the donut shop, killing a couple hours.
Right.
And then I'm thinking, okay, I should just call home because I'm sure everything's fine.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking my mother probably isn't the first person to call. So I call my sister, who's 7 years older than I am, and said, well, what's up? And she goes, Mom's going to kill herself, she says, if you don't come home.
All right. That's like a little dramatic, but
you
okay.
Think? And so so of course I'm like, okay, this is just a negotiation thing.
Right.
I get this. And I asked my sister, I'm like, well, if you're really worried about it, and of course none of us were worried about it, I said, you should get yourself over there, but I'm not coming back until you guys give up. I'm like, this is going to happen. At the time, I'm student body treasurer at the college, so I happen to have an office.
Oh.
And a couch in the office.
Oh, sounds like a bed almost.
So that buys me a day or two. And my mother still doesn't relent. And then the family basically says, well, then you're gone.
Whoa. Okay, so
at this point, no money in my pocket, no real like way to do anything, no place to live. And I walked down to the student loan office, borrowed a couple $100, called every person I could figure out who to call and said, does anyone have a room to rent? You know, like figure it out. And there goes the start of a new life. Walking away from something because I really wanted an education. I was claiming for myself this right, which, you know, in Islamic, in Indian culture too, both education's prized, it's valued, deeply, deeply valued, but only for men. It's because that means they get to set their own destiny. And I wanted that opportunity for myself.
We'll get back to our interview with Nilofer Merchant in just a minute. If you've got a financial question or maybe even a career question, 855-411-JILL is our phone number, and our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. We will be right back.
Young, old, it doesn't matter. She's here to help you. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, a career question, anything that sort of remotely brings a dollar sign into your life, give us a holler, 855-411-JILL, or send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. I want to get back to our interview with Nilofer Merchant. She has just written a book called The Power of Onlyness. This is going to be an interesting segment because I was very intrigued by Nilofer's career at Apple and what she learned there, how she rose up. It always seemed like this amazing thing. People just sort of fortunately walked into a fabulous situation, but it doesn't always happen that way. So here is the next segment in our interview with Nilofer Merchant. One of the things that I want to know a little bit about is that you started your career as like an admin at Apple, right?
I did.
How did that happen? You just applied for a job? You didn't know anyone there, did you?
One of my high school friends had gotten a job there doing competitive analysis, and because I would go over and visit him to have dinner or whatever, I knew enough about the building. I said, what would it take to get a job here? And he says, we do temp agency stuff all the time. That would be a good way to get your foot in. And so I started off as a temp admin, met a bunch of people in the marketing department. And then one of those guys said, I don't have a job for a research analyst, which is what I wanted, but I have a job as an admin. Would you come do that role and also do research? Like, I'll basically let you do the other part of the job you want to do, and that'll give you growth potential. And the guy is named Peter Friedman, really well known in the industry from Apple. And I said, sure. And a couple months later, he came back to me, and because apparently I was not doing a great job at the calendaring part. And and he came back to me and literally said, no, it's all right. I'll manage my own calendar. And he just literally took it back off my plate, which I didn't engineer that consciously or premeditated, but I was really glad when it happened.
Okay, so how long were you at Apple?
I was there for almost 7 years. I was there 89 to 96, right when Steve Jobs came back.
Wow. And so what did you learn in that process? Not about Apple, which is like this totally, like, I think off the scale company when it comes to, comparing innovation and comparing your experience. But what did you learn about corporate culture? And what did you learn about your onlyness at that time?
One of the funnest projects I had a chance to do at Apple actually happened because of a conversation that happened in the hallway. The general manager at Apple literally saw me walking. I was like out to go have lunch. And he stops me and he goes, I have a question for you. I wonder if you could help me with something. And he pulls out this spreadsheet he's carrying and says, this one product line is our lowest revenue line, but our highest margin. And everything else in the entire business is declining at such a rapid rate, we can't figure out how to slow it down. I wonder if you could figure out how to help grow this one product line. And at the time, I wasn't doing product work. I was in sales ops. But I knew enough to say, sure, I can help.
Right. Yes. Yes is usually the right answer.
Yes is the right answer. And it turns out, so I literally take the spreadsheet from him and I said, I'll check back in with you. And I did a U-turn, went to my boss's office and said, hey, I just had this really weird conversation. And she goes, oh my gosh, he's been trying to tag everyone with that project and everyone's running from it. And I was like, really, why? And they said, because they don't think it's fixable. And I was like, all right, well, if it's not fixable, it's not fixable, but at least let me go chase it for a while and find out. And I'll fast forward through the story just a tiny bit, but I ended up figuring out what could actually drive the revenue, and then went into a proposal process, wrote it up, did my first PowerPoint I'll never forget because I was so nervous, and then presented it in front of a room full of people and said, here's the answer. And expecting, by the way, to be the analyst kind of role, say what the problem was, say what the answer was, and then hand it off to someone who had charter. And the general manager said, no, I'd like for you to lead it. And I said, no, I don't do sales. I don't do channel. You shouldn't pick me. Mm-hmm. And he said to me later, because he didn't say it at the moment, I met him like 5 years later. And I said, why in the world would you have handed me this business opportunity? And he said, because you actually believed it was possible to fix it.
Was it?
And it was. And the business grew from $2 million to $180 million within 18 months. Which was astronomical rate of growth. And it was the server product line. So it was the thing that actually helped me understand the web in the early days of the internet and what was needed for ultimately what we live in today. And if I hadn't just literally raised my hand, my entire career would not be what it is today.
It's funny that you should say that because, so many times I'm sure that you get this where people will ask you career advice and they'll say, should I do this? Should I do this? And I think that there is this compulsion to maybe, want to just go up a ladder. But sometimes sideways, just to do an interesting project or to say yes to something where no one else is doing it or where there's a potential is so powerful because people seem to operate out of fear so often. And so maybe that's also part of Onlyness, which is like you bring something unique to that. Maybe 12 other people said no. What made you able to tackle that project may simply have been the fact that you're like, why not?
Right. Passion, right? Passion and purpose. Right now we're doing a lot of things going back to the sort of world of business. We're doing a lot of things where we look first for, does this person fit into a box? And I'm much more inclined of what is it you're so passionate and interested on that if I helped you do that, your own, you would pull that into the future, right? Ideas are born when someone pulls on a thread that only they see. And by pulling on it, instead of something unraveling, they end up finding themselves so deeply connected to the world because their own meaning is what's pulling them forward. And I couldn't have seen that back when I was in my early 20s, but so many years of certainly my own career, but hundreds of other careers that I've had a chance to witness. It's that passion that fuels all of our best work.
And yet, as a former small business owner, one of the things that is striking is that it can't just be passion because then you've got that like wacky, entrepreneur who's got a great idea but can't execute it. And it sounds a little bit like you had the ability to take something but also execute on it. So it's like I have passion, I pull the thread, but
I'm still pulling the thread though.
Yeah.
It's in the action.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So realities. So one of the things I've just really watched is how many companies and organizations love the big idea kind of part of the innovation. But I'm like, yeah, but that's not actually innovation, by the way. That is called a big idea. Innovation is the process of converting that idea into a new marketplace reality. And so if you don't believe in it enough to go pull on that thread and actually go do all the necessary work, and by the way, enroll a bunch of other people in that work, you never get to the other side.
How do you think that people can find that passion if they're bogged down in their day-to-day? So that's the part that I hear from people, they're working at companies like, I'm doing all this crap, like I'm in my doing mode. How do I bring myself up to my thinking mode? What is your suggestion around that?
So let me just share a story because it might be easier to kind of pick up on that thread. So there was a woman in the book, featured in the book. She's in chapter 2, Kimberly Bryant. She had gone to Vanderbilt University, gotten a degree in engineering, and in fact, one of her, I think it was her second boss, the one at DuPont, introduces her to her colleagues this way. He says, "With Kimberly, we got a twofer." And what he was pointing out was that Kimberly was a Black woman in tech. He was pointing out her otherness, right? Because those are all the ways in which she was kept separate from the team. Instead of saying, by the way, here's what she's passionate about. She loves to build stuff. Here's what she wants to come do at DuPont. Here's why we're excited about the project she's doing, and which would be all her onlyness. Fast forward in the story 20 years. And she sees that her daughter is getting the exact same treatment that she had gotten 20 years before, so nothing really had changed. And Kai is at a summer coding camp and is basically being dismissed, even though she's an unbelievably strong gamer, is being dismissed as she must not know because the culture is mostly white and mostly male. And they're not expecting right? They're seeing Kai through a lens of an ism instead of actually noticing that which Kai is, her onlyness. And then so Kim sits there and goes, oh my God, this has got to change. And she thinks about it as a side project at first. She doesn't think she's going to go change the world or anything. She literally gathers some old computers from friends. She designs some curriculum on a weekend. She gathers these girls around a table and slowly but surely really just teaches them what she knows passionately. And then she does it because a couple other friends find out, oh, sure, you can join. And it starts to become a thing. Other parents call her and say, can I borrow that curriculum? This program has now trained 10,000 girls to code for an economy that actually needs more coders. This is really fulfilling a tectonic need, right? And here's the thing. If she had stayed in her old role in tech, that wouldn't have happened. So the thing she did was to actually notice something she saw a problem with, to say, what is the small way in which I could act? That thing is now an entire enterprise and viable business and growing and getting sponsorships and all that. But it didn't start with the big thing. It started with the noticing that thing that only you see. And by saying, I will work on that.
All right, we'll get back to our interview with Nilofer Merchant in just a minute. You are listening to Jill on Money. 855-411-JILL is our phone number. Our email address, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
From rookie investors to savvy veterans, Jill Schlesinger is here to help you. Call now, 855-411-JILL, or email askjill@jillonmoney.com.
You're back with Jill on Money. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. I'm Jill Schlesinger. And we are delighted to have an author for our interview hour here, Nilofer Merchant. Her book is called The Power of Onlyness. Make your wild ideas mighty enough to dent the world. And, look, I think that there is so much conversation around how you can be your best advocate in the workplace. And we've talked about that in this show because no one's going to do it for you, right? And yet I am always amazed when I read these books and find that, women just don't really have in general, don't have a great time advocating for themselves. They can advocate for others, but they don't do, generally speaking, a great job doing it themselves. So in this segment, we're talking a little bit about women in the workplace. Here's my interview with Nilofer Merchant. Do you think that there's also a problem with self-doubt? Just like, well, who am I to do this? Do you think that, and I wonder that sometimes I experience that. I don't want to bring gender into this, but I often will hear that from women sometimes where I'm like, well, why would you think that? Like the dude sitting next to you is not thinking that way. He's thinking I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll do it. And so what is that? How do you bridge that gap and quiet the voice that's telling you, yeah, you're not going to do it?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned the confidence question because I think that was my initial hypothesis. I'm not sure I would have articulated it that well, but I think my initial hypothesis was that. And as evidence to myself, I once went to a conference and filled up a lanyard, the thing that holds your badge, with two buttons. They were really similar to each other. One said 85% kick-ass, 15% debilitating fear. And the other one was, I think, 99.1. So there were these two pins, and I stuck them on, each side of the lanyard. And then I was asking people to pick a pin and then tell me what made them kick ass. And I was trying to decode confidence. Mm-hmm. What I actually found in the research work, and this is interesting to be able to put down a hypothesis and then go, oh, that wasn't it, is that 61% of us find a way to conform to the situation around us rather than advocate for our ideas. And the psychology research, the best research says, in that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the bottom layer is like food and shelter kind of stuff. Right. The top level is our ideas and our actualization. In the middle is this thing that we have to get through in order to be able to claim our ideas, and it's belonging. 61% of us choose to fit in and give up a part of ourselves in order to belong because we don't belong to our people. And so those people that are naturally what seems like confident, like that guy you were just telling the example of, he's sitting next to you, the narrative culture around him says he already belongs. Mm-hmm. The narrative culture, at least for that guy, right?
Right.
The narrative culture for a lot of women says you don't belong here. The narrative culture for people of color quite often is you don't belong here. Or for young people, right? As you're super young or super as you're getting older, tech ages people out. So I see that a lot there. And so here's the thing. Even in the click down of the 61%, this is the thing that says this is a universal problem. 45% of straight white men said they do it too. That they basically give up their ideas to belong because they don't fit into the dominant majority narrative of an alpha male kind of guy that is characterized as this is what it is to be manly. When there are so many flavors of ways for us to be human, but because we only celebrate in media, of course, and in the stories that we tell each other, there's one way to be a man, and there's one way to be in business, which looks like a man, by the way, even if you're a woman.
Right. It's a 6 foot. I think that like they did this funny study of like the investment bankers, and they were like 6'2", white, blonde, Ivy educated. I was like, oh my God, this is ridiculous.
Right.
But they also become self-perpetuating.
Right, because then only
that
those people,
exclusion.
only those people feel they belong actually go into that environment because they're the only people who are going to thrive. So we end up. This is actually, by the way, limiting all innovation. Right, just if you just kind of think about it, because it means that 61% of the ideas are not showing up. And in sizing that, because I'm an econ major, right? So I'm really interested in what's the financial value of that. It's $1 trillion opportunity in the U.S. alone, with some research and scholarship I did with Roth University. In the U.S. alone, $1 trillion. I think there's more than that even.
All right. Let me ask you a quick question here because I can't keep you forever. I would love to. Can you teach innovation, or do you think people can bring it out of others?
So I believe everyone and anyone can be an innovator because I define innovation as turning an idea into reality. And I think almost every single one of us has an idea. It can be small, right? One of the reasons I chose the word dent as the subhead of the book, and a lot of people argued with me that was a terrible word. I was like, yeah, but dense. I was in India growing up, and I would see people literally by the side of the road, dent by dent, shaping something that was a flat piece of metal into a pot, whether it was tin or copper. And dents are the small ways. But let me tell you a story that showed up also in the research. There was a bioscience project that was going on, and they were trying to figure out how to decode how proteins fold. And they thought at first, we need the best PhDs in the world, maybe global PhDs, and we'll figure out how to get in touch with them. And it turns out there wasn't enough of a talent base with that group. And so they thought, gosh, could we actually open it up to the world? And they figured out how to reduce the jargon of their system and how to invite other people. And then they still noticed that people were gravitating on this online game to the people who had top credentialed degrees. But they noticed that actually wasn't the person who were actually doing good protein folding. And they thought, this is so silly. Why don't we just hide those signals of gender or socioeconomic status or things and just turn down those dials? And they end up finding that the world's best protein folder, the world's best protein folder who actually solved this tectonic problem they'd been stuck with for years, 15, 20 years. And it turned out to be a woman who was an admin during the day, had gone to nursing school early in her career, had left nursing because of the sexism she had experienced, and then actually loved doing things like Sudoku, was a natural problem solver, and had that gift. And so the key wasn't her. She was always there. She was always exhibiting her capabilities in the world. The thing that changed was the Fold-It team and the scaffolding and systems they put in place that enabled that person to be revealed. And I have a belief that the greatest problem and greatest opportunity we have in business today is that we're not setting up the scaffolding and systems to allow everyone to contribute that what they have. We're working on a scarcity model of we have to find the right person, and there must be such a thing as a right person. And I'm using air quotes when I'm saying it. But right, as we've predefined it for thousands of years, we'll end up with the same profile of everyone we've already had doing it. Our new path forward is to open up and reveal all the other capabilities that exist.
Okay, just a quick thank you to Nilofer Merchant. Thanks so much for joining us and being part of the program. Go check out her book, The Power of Onlyness. You are listening to Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, 855-411-JILL. Send an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger. Have a question? Call anytime, day or night. 855-411-JILL.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. 855-411-JILL, or you can send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Here's an email from Robert, who is retired but had an accident while he was on the job. He works for a municipality, or did, and he said he now is collecting on an accidental disability pension. Okay, so here's the deal. He had to retire, and so right now he receives a tax-free disability pension. He wants to know, under the new Republican tax plans that are being contemplated, would the pension still be tax-free? He said it would be very difficult to have my income reduced by taxes after making bills and other expenses. You know what, Robert, I don't know the answer to that, but I'm going to guess that you will be grandfathered in, because most of the issues that are surrounding the current plans grandfather people in under these types of scenarios. So we don't know yet. We don't know what they're going to decide upon, but I'm going to just give it a guess. Unfortunately, you're going to have to essentially wait and see, like the rest of us, but yours is going to be a lot more critical. But I don't think that you're going to end up having to do that. I'm just hopeful. Okay. So here's another email from Chuck, who listens to us, WCCO in Minneapolis, home of the Minnesota Wild. Okay. What is the truth regarding the central bank issuing SDRs to replace the dollar in the world monetary system? Some people think that this is going to happen early in the new year. Also, do you know anything about U.S. freedom checks that supposedly people can receive by making some kind of application? Love your personality. Thanks, Chuck. I don't know about. I don't know what you're talking about. I really don't know what you're talking about at all. So let's do this just for fun. Mark, I'm going to look up what SDR stands for because I don't know what that stands for. Should I know that? Have you heard of that, Mark? Let's look this up right now. I just did a search. I did SDR, special drawing rights certificates. Okay, here we go. Phew. Thank God I don't have to know everything. All right. I'm at the Federal Reserve website, and these are called special drawing rights certificates and treasury currencies. It does not exactly. It says lots of zeros about what it is. Billions of dollars, quarterly figures, show more. I'm showing more. I don't know what they are. I really don't. Mark, help me out, man. I don't think so. It doesn't look like they're doing anything. It's fascinating. It says special drawing rights allocations. Now I'm going to go to the St. Louis Fed. By the way, I love the St. Louis Fed. Not a lot here. So I guess I don't know about this at all. I guess I'm going to have to learn about it. Do I have to? It seems very, I don't know. The IMF, some say the U.S. dollar may die. China has okay. Oh, I see. Okay. So the IMF is talking about this also. Special drawing rights. Basket of strategic reserve currencies. The composition of the SDR may change. What is an SDR? It's an international reserve asset. Thank God. Created by the IMF in 1969 to supplement its member countries' official reserves. As of March 2016, that's what I have here, $204 billion of SDRs is equal, about $285 billion worth of SDRs have been created and allocated to members. They can be exchanged for freely usable currencies The value of the SDR is currently based on a basket of 4 major currencies: the dollar, the euro, the yen, and the pound sterling. It has now been expanded to include the Chinese renminbi. So there it is. It doesn't sound like this is a way that this is going to actually replace the dollar. So I feel okay about that. I feel like okay about basically saying I had no idea, because I would not have known that. Okay. I don't know what freedom checks are. Do I have to look that up, Mark, or not? All right, good. All right, let's do another one here. Sorry about that, Chuck. Oh boy. It's a long, how much time do I have left? Less than a minute. I don't have an answer to that. I can't do this. I'm going to have to wait till so, all right, we got a Social Security question, and maybe I'll start it and finish it in the last segment. How's that? Does that make sense to you? Let's do it. So Social Security, we're going to get to this in this next segment. I can't do it. It's too long. You're listening to Jill on Money. That was a fakakta segment, as we say in British. You're listening to Jill on Money, 855-411-JILL. Send an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back. Okay, you are back with Jill on Money, 855-411-JILL. Email us, askjill@jillonmoney.com. Here's Tony's comment about Social Security. He basically wants to know, why do you get penalized if you work when you have claimed Social Security early? I don't know. It's the rule. I think that they want to encourage people to either keep working or not. But you're right. You get taxed if you earn more than, I don't know, 15, 16 grand. But why doesn't the government allow people to collect without an earnings cap? I don't know. I don't know where it came from, and I don't know why. So he argues that would be better for people in the middle class. He also says, what do you think about removing the limit of $127,200 on Social Security wages to increase the surplus of Social Security? I think that's a great idea. However, people don't want to pay more in taxes, and that's like big pushback on that. I think to shore up the Social Security system, which again, it's not going broke. Right now, if you look into the future, it's just that we only have enough people working to pay out 3/4 of benefits. It would be helpful if we could do lots of different things, raise the Social Security age a tiny bit, raise the wage base a tiny bit, maybe, change some of the rules around work and when you can claim and things like that. All that being said, it's a solvable problem, which thankfully we have that possibility, as opposed to other problems like Medicaid and Medicare, which are very hard to solve. So I like those ideas, and I thank you for writing. And most importantly, everyone who's listening, Social Security, not going broke. Not going broke. It's a pay-as-you-go system. So stop worrying. Everyone who writes me and says, oh, my God, Social Security is going broke, I'm never going to get it. You're going to get it. You may not get as much as you think you're going to get, but you're going to get something. And I bet that essentially they'll change the system so you get what is actually promised right now. I wouldn't bet the farm on it. It doesn't mean you have to stop saving. You still got to save. All right. That's it. That's the show. Thank you so much for listening. Are you in the holiday mood yet? Where's my holiday music, Mark? God dang it. Anyway, Mark will get that for next week. All right. Give us a holler if you have a financial question. 855-411-JILL. Send an email. AskJill@JillOnMoney.com. Head to our website, JillOnMoney.com. If you've got any questions, we've got lots of links there. All right. We'll see you next week. Thanks.